Hello everyone. Today we'll be talking about the kings and queens of Numenor. First on our list we have the man himself, the founder. He was the twin brother of Elrond and the one appointed to be the first king by the Valar themselves. He was part elf and part man. Elros's brother Elrond chose to remain an elf, and Elros chose a mortal life as a man. As the first king he took the title Tar Miniatur, a high elven name because most elves in Middle-earth spoke another elvish language, but that's another story for another time. He lived for 500 years, till he voluntarily chose to have his last sleep. This was an honor thing to do, to give up your life before you get too old and become senile. Tolkien didn't write much more on Tar Miniatur, so let's move on. Next we have Elros's son Vardamir. He did not rule because by the time Elros passed, Vardamir was quite old, and so he gave the rulership to his son Tar Amandil, but laws still counted him as being the second ruler, and it became tradition to resign the rulership before they died. Third we have Tar Amandil, but Tolkien didn't write much on him. Next we have Tar Elendil. An interesting thing happened during his reign. The Numenorians finally sailed back to Middle-earth after 600 years from the time the first generation of Numenorians first departed Middle-earth. At first they were welcomed by Gil-galad, the Elven King. Then they encountered the native peoples of Middle-earth, who had regressed back to a fearful and primitive state. The natives were blown away at the coming of the Numenorians. They looked like high elves and were more advanced in knowledge and technology. But the Numenorians were friendly and helped the natives in farming to better their lives. The fifth ruler we have Tar Meneldur. He was wise but known for having a troubled relationship with his son. He also resigned early to his son after learning from Gil-galad that an evil force was gaining power in Middle-earth. Next we have Tar Aldarion. He was known to be rebellious before he was king. He was obsessed with sailing the seas and cruising out in Middle-earth against his dad's orders. Tar Aldarion was also known for his troubled marriage with his wife. He left her hanging before they were even married, and during their marriage by going off to sail for many years, which pissed her off and she left him. They only had one child and it was a daughter. The seventh ruler was the first queen, Tar Ankalime. Before this, no women were allowed to rule, but since Tar Aldarion had no son, he changed the law to allow the oldest heir, whether man or woman, to rule. Growing up, she was raised by her mother. Since her father wasn't around much, she ended up hating her father. After he died, she became queen and neglected all of his policies and stopped giving aid to Middle-earth. The eighth and ninth king were Tar Anarion and Tar Surion. Tolkien didn't write anything about them, so moving on. Up next we have Tar Telperion. She was the second ruling queen. What was notable during her reign was that Sauron came to power and forged the One Ring and tried to take over Middle-earth. The 11th king was Tar Minastir. Now Tar Telperion did not marry or have any kids, so the rulership passed to her nephew, Tar Minastir. He was known for sending a large navy to Middle-earth to help the elves defeat Sauron. He was also known for being envious of the elves for being immortal. Next is Tar Kiryatan. He was known for being greedy and started to oppress the natives of Middle-earth. He sailed everywhere that was allowed and brought back tons of treasure. This is probably the first king to start the kingdom down a dark path. Now things took an even darker change with the next king. Tar Atanamir is next. He was just like his father, greedy and oppressive, but more extreme by starting to question the ban of the Valar and why they weren't allowed to Valinor and why they were not immortal. He even broke tradition by not giving up rulership to his son before he died, and all rulers after him did the same thing. The next ruler was Tar Ankaliman. During his time, the Numenorians became divided. There was the majority, known as the King's Men, who supported the king and his policies. Smaller factions were known as the Faithful, who supported the king but were still devoted to the Valar and wanted friendship with the elves. The 15th ruler was Tar Telemaite. He was known for loving silver, and during his time and afterwards, the long lifespan of the Numenorians started to weaken. Next was Tar Vanimelde. She was the third ruling queen, but she didn't care much for being ruler, so her husband acted as the king. Up next is Tar Alcurin. He was supposed to rule after his mother passed, but his dad still acted as king, so he had to wait. Next we have Tar Carbuncle. He was known for winning much of the coastlands, forcing Sauron to push further east. Up next is Tar Ardaman, but Tolkien didn't write anything about him, so moving on. The 20th was Tar Numen, but took the name Ar Adunakor in his native language, showing that he was done with Elvish tradition and did not allow Elvish to be taught. And the High Elves stopped coming to Numenor anymore, but in secret. The 21st and the 22nd kings were Ar Zimrathon and Ar Sakulthor, but Tolkien didn't say much of them, so skipping to the next one is Ar Gimilzor. He was even more extreme than Ar Adunakor. He banned all Elvish language and banned all elves from coming. He worshipped nothing, but he married a woman who was secretly a member of the faithful. They had 2 sons, Inziladun and Gimilcad. The former was like his mother and was raised to like the faithful, but the younger was like his father and hated the elves. After Ar Gimilzor passed, Inziladun took up rule and decided to go back to the old traditions by being devoted to the Valar and trying to welcome back the elves. He took his title in High Elvish again, calling himself Tar Palantir, but it was too late. The Valar were very angry at what the Numenorians had become, so this was not an easy thing to repair. Plus, most of the Numenorians had not even repented, and there was civil war in his time, led by his own brother, and he spent much of his time trying to keep the Numenorians together. The next ruler should have been Tar Palantir's only child, a daughter, called Miriel, but Tar Palantir's younger brother also had a child, called Pharazôn, who was like his father. Pharazôn grew up to be a great captain of the seas, and was kind of a champion of the Numenorians, so when he heard his father had passed, he went back to Numenor and seized power from Miriel, and forced her into marriage so he could become the last king and last ruler, which was against the law, and everything that came afterwards led to the downfall of Numenor. Well, there you have it, the rulers of Numenor. Hope everyone enjoyed. Hey everybody, if you enjoyed this video, I hope today I earned your subscription, and if you could give a thumbs up and comment down below who you think is the most interesting ruler, and have a good day.